guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're continuing on with the life of Samson. And guys, this is a doozy, so let's get into it. So where did we leave off from the previous message? The last message from the previous chapter is where it says, and Samson's wife was given to the friend who had attended him at his wedding. Mind you, Samson didn't know this, right? Okay, that's point number 1. So here we are at chapter number 15. And so what happened was that Samson, at some time after this, then went to go and visit his wife again. He brought up a young goat as well, just to visit her and like give gifts or whatever. As now he goes to go and visit his wife, he says to the father, I'm going up to go and visit. I'm going up to her room. And essentially the father would not let him go. And the father then proceeded to say, I was sure that you hated her. Yeah, he said, I was sure that you hated her. And then he proceeded to say, but then I also gave her to a friend of yours who was at the wedding. And then he proceeds to say, isn't the younger sister more attractive? Take her instead. Okay, so firstly, the way women are referred to here is as though they are property and they can be moved around. And it was insane that her father, after she was actually married, didn't actually ask Samson anything, but then proceeded to say, well, I'm going to give her to this other random guest. And it's weird because I'm like, why would you need to give your daughter to someone else so quickly? What was the need? Couldn't you wait? Why did you automatically do that? Because it sounded like something that happened soon after the whole thing where Samson was upset with the fact that they now messed with his wife and the whole riddle thing. So essentially he now just gives his daughter that was married to someone else who was friends with that person she was married to. And he thought this was okay, and he thought, well, okay, it'll be fine because essentially Samson can just get my younger daughter. Isn't she more attractive anyway? I don't know, sir. Is your youngest daughter more attractive than your other daughter? And it's just okay to do that. And he didn't even think of Samson's feelings in that sense. Maybe he thought, well, okay, maybe Samson is just very upset with my daughter and with his wife about all of this, and so he's never going to want to see her again. Not even taking into account the fact that maybe he would just need a time away from her. And let me first go and ask Samson if he's really still into my daughter. Instead, I'm just going to hand her over to someone else. Anyway, and then I'm going to suggest my other daughter. This is all just normal, right? So Samson gets very upset and he proceeds to say, this is my chance to get vengeance at the Philistines, like he had done before. But I think this time he was just very upset. So it's very important to note what he does next, because he's like, I'm going to cause havoc. So what he does is, verse 4 says, so he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. He then fastened a torch to every pair of tails. Verse 5 says, he lit the torches and let the foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. He burnt up the shocks and standing grain together with the vineyards and olive groves. So, yeah, he gathered up 300 foxes, which firstly, how many foxes were there in the area? And secondly, how long did this take? And thirdly, what made him think of this? I mean, he surely could have just taken anything and had them burn up the fields, unless it wasn't dry. So perhaps he was just like, well, this is going to be more efficient for me to burn down everything that you guys own. And possibly, of course, the land was probably really huge. So he was like, in pairs, so they're going to be able to disperse to the different parts of the crops, to the land with the different crops. So it was actually clever to do this, but also insane to gather so many foxes to do this for him. Anyway, so of course the Philistines got wind of this, and they proceeded to ask, who did this? They were then told that Samson, the Timnite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his friend. So people knew that Samson did all of these things because he was upset about the fact that his wife's father proceeded to give her to someone else. And then what proceeded to happen was that the Philistines went up and burnt her and her father to death. So this was just casual, essentially, back in the day. People were just burning other people up. People were just tying foxes, burning people's crops, which I guess, I mean, if you're upset, you want to scorch the earth. It's interesting to me that he doesn't actually assault, like, hurt the father. He doesn't do anything to the father. He rather burns the Philistines, which is interesting. So he takes it out on the people instead of the actual person who did the deed, which I think is something very important to note. In any case, they do that, and then because the Philistines then took vengeance for themselves and punished the father and his daughter, and they burnt them, right? Samson is further upset, and Samson's like, well, because you did this, because you acted like this, I won't stop until I get my revenge on you. He then proceeded to attack them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave at a rock, in the rock of Etam. And so as you can see here, guys, there's a lot of crazy things happening here. A lot of huge and I would say outlandish responses and reactions to the things that have happened there. Now, granted, like I said, I do not fully understand the culture of the day. So I think a lot of these things were gross breaches of contracts, I would say, for them to respond in this way and with them to respond with this amount of violence. So in any case, he did all of this and he killed people. Oh, well, I don't know if I can say that. So he attacked people viciously. Then he went up into a cave. So that for me is also interesting. Why did he go to a cave? But we keep it pushing. Maybe he was resting. I don't know. So anyway, so like I said, yes, he was there in a cave and maybe he was drowning in his sorrows. We don't know. But in any case, so the Philistines obviously didn't like what he did, obviously, because he was viciously attacking their people. And so they end up going to Judah and they were like camped out there, I think. And essentially, they wanted to intimidate them, the people of Judah. And so the people of Judah were like, wait, why are these people here by us? And then they went to the Philistines and were like, listen here, what's going on? And then they proceeded to explain that, listen, Samson did so and so to us. And so we want to get him back. Can you please bring him to us? And then the people of Judah then went to Samson and was like, listen here, why did you do these things to the Philistines? Because now you made trouble for us, essentially, because they want here to intimidate us. Don't you know that they actually rule us? And then Samson was like, I only wanted to do to them what they did to me. And they were like, well, you definitely created trouble for us. And then they were like, well, Samson, since you did all of this to us, can't you just have us tie you up and then we'll hand you over to them as a prisoner, essentially. And he was like, okay, fine, I guess you can do this, but just like assure me that you're not going to, off me yourself. And they were like, yeah, okay, we won't do that. We won't off you ourselves. We're just going to hand you over. And that's essentially what they did. They tied him up and, okay, yes, so they bound him with new ropes and led him up by the rock. Okay, so guys, prepare yourself for what happens next. So, like I said, they went up to the rock with Samson. This is now the people of Judah. And we're about to hand him over to the Philistines. So, as they're approaching each other in Lehi, I think that's how you say it, they were approaching each other and the Philistines start shouting. And the Spirit of the Lord then came upon Samson in power, and the ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped, essentially. And he found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, and he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. that 1,000 men. That's not a little people. And mind you, I'm sure because it's the Philistine people, I'm assuming now, these are probably people who can fight, unless it was just random people from the town that decided to intimidate others, but were not equipped to fight the people. But anyway, so it was 1,000 men that he then proceeded to strike down. And Samson proceeds to say the following. With the donkey jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With the donkey's jawbone, I have 1,000 men. So it sounds like he's very proud of what he did, and he's like saying, yeah, I made donkeys out of all of you. And when he was finished speaking, he threw the jawbone away, of course, as any normal person would do. And that place was called Ramath, which means jawbone hill. So guys, after this, he was very thirsty. I don't know, he seems like quite a character. He actually seems like someone who had serious like spiritual strength and was just not of this world, essentially because of the things that he did, the things that he was capable of doing, the people that and with the attitude that he did it with. It's insane to me. But I think he also did this knowing that the Philistines were ruling them at the time, or were in charge of them at the time, or something like that. So he was essentially mocking them, right? And he was just like blatantly just doing whatever he pleased. Anyway, so all of this happened. The place is called Rama Lehi, which obviously means jawbone hill. And after all of this, Samson was thirsty. So he cried out to the Lord, and he said to the Lord, listen, you've given me this great victory. Will you now allow me to pass away because of thirst? And then the Lord opened up Lehi, which is the hill, I'm assuming, opened up the hill and the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. And when Samson drank the water, his strength was restored. So the spring was called En Hakore, and it is still there at Lehi. So what that means is call a spring. And then it just proceeds to say, Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. So yeah, guys, pretty insane things happening here, all in this one chapter. Now, obviously, we don't know the span of time within which this all occurred, but crazy things that I would be like, listen, if this happened here, I would be like, wait, what is just happening? What just happened? This guy just killed, or the guy just offed like 1,000 people with a jawbone of a donkey. And then he was thirsty, and the Lord, was like, okay, let me give you water. And opened up like a hollow part of a hill, because he was like, this, my champ essentially is thirsty. Let me give him water and open this up to him. Let me satisfy this. But then in that process, his strength was also restored. So interesting relationship he had with God. God obviously had serious plans with him, and Samson was also like, look, you, my father, I'm going to ask you for what I want, and I need water, and that is what happened. But anyway, so it's Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. So yeah, guys, so this was actually Israel's leader at the time. Very, very interesting stuff. So I hope that you guys marinate on this for a bit. Think about all the things that these things happen. And then, like I said, also the power of the Lord came upon him before. And then something like his rope chart, it fell off, it dropped. And all of a sudden, he had the strength, and he found like a random jawbone of a donkey. All of these things to me seem so miraculous. Like everything, finding the fresh jawbone of a donkey and managing to just strike down 1,000 men, and getting random water from a brook, from an opening in a hill, opening in a hollow space in a hill, or something like that. Anyway, all of these things are very miraculous to me. I can't imagine seeing all of these things happening before my eyes, but this is literally what happened. And to me, it seemed God ordained as well. Maybe not every detail of it, but I feel like in order to get back at the Philistines for taking over Israel, or the Israelites. This is part of the vengeance, I think. But anyway, so guys, that is it for today. I'm gonna leave it at that, and I'm gonna continue on with the next part of it, and that is chapter 16 in the next episode of the Samson Chronicles. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. And I hope that you guys have a great day further. I hope that you guys have a great week further. I hope that you guys have a blessed day further and a blessed week further. And God bless.